Jeff, for spending some time with me today
My
to
pleasure.
go through your update of the very popular Joe filter. I'm going to hand it over to you. Let's tell us a little bit about System 80 and the Jove revision that you've made.
Sure, yeah. System 80, I feel like some people in Toronto know us, know me, because I've done a couple presentations at the Toronto Sound Festival over the last few years. So the Royal We is just me and a technician, Eric, who works here at Relab. And we're both very part time, so we kind of don't even add up to one whole person. Um, and kind of System 80 specialty is really sort of like vintage analog designs from the 70s and early 80s. That's kind of how I got into the synthesis and what I love. So I'm sort of really interested in bringing those designs into the Eurorack format, so people can enjoy them without necessarily having to spend thousands of dollars on a vintage synth. Um, so our very first product has been our most successful product. It's called Jove. It was a 14 HP multi-mode filter that is based on the multi-mode filter that's in the Roland Jupiter 6 polysynth, which was made in the early 80s. And I've covered this before, so this is a bit repetitive, but sort of the big and interesting thing to me, at least, about the Jove is that it's a Roland filter, so it's a OTA based filter, 4 stages. What's interesting to me and very unique about it is that it's a multi-mode filter. So if you look at all the classic Roland synths like the SH101, their sort of whole family of analog polysynths, and the monosynths of their era, they're almost all just low pass filters, typically 24 dB per octave. Then the Jupiter 6 came out and it had a multi-mode filter. So it added a high pass and a band pass mode. And to my ears, those modes are really interesting. The low pass mode still retains a lot of that sort of rubbery, plasticky character of the classic Roland filters of that era. But then you get these 2 extra modes that are just really distinctive, I guess I would say. That's like
Mm-hmm.
they're still very Roland sounding, but they're to me they're really interesting. And during the design phase, I found it quite it was a very close match to the original because I actually had 2 Jupiter 6s that I was using during testing. So um, there's a lot of filters in Eurorack, and Jove, I think, captures quite accurately the kind of feel and character of the original Jupiter 6 filter, which allows you to just have one of those voices in Eurorack if you want to do like a subtractive analog voice with that filter or run anything else through it. So
Yeah.
a couple of years ago, we released an 8 HP version of Jove, which we called the 860,
Mm-hmm.
because all of our other modules are part of what I call the 800 series. So we started with the 850, which is a LFO sort of utility module, the 810, which is a analog voice module, the 820, which is just an analog VCO, and then the 880, which is our Eurorack analog drum machine. So Jove, even though it was our first product, kind of became an outlier by virtue of not having an 8 in front of its name. So 860 was the first version. We called it 860, and it was 8 HP.
Mm-hmm.
And so we only made 30 of them,
Mm-hmm.
and they sold out immediately. And then I set to work on making sort of a replacement for both of them. And that's
Mm-hmm.
what we now call the 860 Mark II. And it is 10 HP.
Yeah.
It recalls the filter mode between power cycles, and it has a 2-channel mixer on it. So the original Jove and the H60 Mark I, you had one attenuated audio channel, and then you had an unattenuated channel. So you could create a 2-channel mix, but you would have to, if you need to attenuate with another module if you were clipping or peaking.
It's really nice to have
Yeah.
two inputs with mix control in a filter, you know, because
Yeah,
then
and
you can easily
really,
put in a chord, right? Like a
yeah,
keynote
exactly.
chord.
And the reason why I did that is because again, it comes from this classic monosynth or polysynth design of that era, where a lot of synths were 2 oscillator synths. So
Hmm.
a lot of the role, like the Jupiter 6 was a 2 oscillator per voice synth, so you needed to mix two signals into the filter. So
Hmm.
it sort of made sense that because then you can detune them,
Hmm.
um, and or you can add in a noise source or
Yeah.
anything else, right? So and it doesn't take up a huge amount of real estate on the panel, and
Yeah.
it's sort of saves some space because then you don't have to necessarily have an external mixing module.
Yeah. The other thing, there's a reason why I don't have the module in a case. It's because, you know, sharing a workspace with Jeff, I've learned how meticulous he is as a designer. And the really beautiful thing about this module is it's got a really nice enclosure for the back, uh, which I'm sure a lot, you know, some users will appreciate. But do you want to talk a little bit about
Yeah,
this?
that was a bit of an extravagance.
It's extravagant, but it's great.
Yeah.
It makes a
Um,
difference.
so I mean, really, the credit there is due to Rabbit Elephant. So you know, Rabbit Elephant, they're known for the natural gate. They that's a beautifully designed module that not many people have actually seen in the wild because they're so rare and hard to
Yeah.
find because people want them so badly. I've seen one in real life,
Hmm.
um, and there's just the detail that goes into the panel, um, and the knobs and the layout and everything. Like it's amazing. But then they went to the trouble of putting a stainless steel cover on the back, um, and so I was talking to my machinist who does our front panels, and I said, you know, can we do something similar? Like, can I put a cover on the back just to give the module a more finished feel?
Hmm.
Um, and partly because my favorite modular format, is the Roland System 100M, and it's not a 5U format. It's not a Eurorack format. It's sort of in between. They're tall modules, but
Hmm.
they're all fit the same width, and
Hmm.
they work only within the one System 100M system. But they use mini jacks, 3.5 millimeter jacks. To me, it's just like 5U is too big, Eurorack is too small. The System 100M format is like just the right size, and all the modules, they're meant to be taken out and swapped around, but they all have an enclosure on the back.
Hmm.
So that was also what inspired this. And it's just I realized sort of you see a lot of stuff the way people use their systems, and there's some people will set it up and just leave it forever, but I feel like the default is that people swap modules around a lot.
Hmm.
Sometimes you have to have your module powered on because you need to calibrate it.
Yeah.
You know, if there's any sort of adjustments you need to do on it, you have to have it out of the case but powered on. So I just thought users might be more comfortable handling the module and moving it around between cases if the electronics on the back weren't exposed.
I know that the 860 is currently it's been released, and it's also all sold out. So can
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
talk a little bit about the availability and
Yeah.
what's coming up next?
The they sold out within a week, which surprised me. Clearly, there's a lot of a pent up pandemic demand, I think, because we had not had Jove in production for over a year, and we had been teasing the this sort of narrower version of it with some new features. So the people that were waiting maybe for a Jove, just they jumped on getting an 860, so it's completely out of stock everywhere. We are struggling to make more because there is I don't know if any of your other manufacturers have discussed this, but there's a global semiconductor shortage that's related to the
Hmm.
pandemic as well as the fire at a factory or something. So it's pretty serious, for especially for small players. If we rely, like, because a lot of the Eurack makers that I know, we source all our parts through North American or European distribution systems. So we rely on like Mouser and DigiKey and other sort of domestic distributors, I guess. So they import all their parts from Asia and then they sell them to us. So they have very good quality control. You don't have to worry about counterfeits. Um, they are running out of semiconductors. So the 860, a couple of the parts that were like they're in full production, uh, they uh, they there's something you would never ever dream of there being a shortage of them. And then when I went to put together the bill of materials for the next run of 860s, they're just gone. Like an op amp that's used in probably 80% of all your rack modules in the footprint that I need to use it in. It's just completely out of stock across all global supply chains. So we had to make some changes. We had to just find parts that we could actually use. They're the same part, but just in a different format. So we had to redesign the circuit board, and we're currently validating it. So we're probably not going to have more for at least another 2 or 3 months.
Hmm.
Um, the only thing I have to tide people over is when we did the 860 in black, I also had my machinist do 50 of them in sort of what I would call System 100M gray. Um, so I can show one off here. Uh,
Please do.
my friend Bart, he hand screen prints our boxes. So they've got a very kind of nice crafty feel to them, and I really like them. And we decided to do these special edition ones in pink. Um, and inside you get um, it's the exact same as the black 860, except that the panel is gray. And it has the back
And
panel.
it's very System 100
It's very
gray.
System
Yeah.
100. It's not a perfect color match,
Hmm.
but it's definitely gray. Uh, and then the other nice touch that I like about it is that it has these orange indicators on the knobs, which were a special order. I know I'm a sort of nerd about synth knobs, and so I was really excited when I sourced these because I had to special order them from the knob manufacturer. Um, so I don't know if we'll do any other of our modules in this color, but we're about to release these next week. They're going to be for sale direct from the System 80 website, and we have Juno Records in the UK is going to be distributing these for the European market, and that's it. So buy direct from System 80, or anyone in Europe, they got to get them from Juno.
I think it's just a solid design that doesn't have too much, and but it has enough to do a lot of different things. And I do agree the different filter types are really great. I really like the high pass.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, the high pass sounds really nice when you put it all the way up. Yeah.
Yeah, it rolls right off. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I like
Yeah.
that. I like that. Yes, thank you, Heidi.
Yeah. Well, thanks a lot.
All right, take care.